With the Iowa Lottery's new Millionaire for Life game, you could win $1 million a year for life. That could make you a My Dream Job is No Job-millionaire, a front row tickets to every show-millionaire, a hire a personal glam squad for you and your bestie-millionaire.
Yep, a little further.
Or just to never run out of your favorite pickles-millionaire. With Millionaire for Life from the Iowa Lottery,
And these.
you can change your life for life. Play today.
Welcome to Buckets!
Buckets!
Last Buckets of the 2025-26 season.
Season finale, the inaugural season of Buckets comes
I'm
to an
Jake
end.
Brend, joined by Andrew Downs. We've been here for most of the season, but at the same time, came together a little bit late. I think our first show was Cyhawk Week, or no? I think
we had one before. Yeah, we had one before, and then we were live up in Ames for Cyhawk Week. Hey, sweetie.
Hello.
Welcome to Buckets.
Hello.
Okay. Good night, sweetheart. Yeah, man. So yeah, the season is over. I gotta tell you a story about that. We last Thursday, after Iowa beat Nebraska, which we'll talk about a little bit. Feels crazy that was less than a week ago. We did an instant Iowa, Hassel and I, instant reaction, and my son was up, and he kind of came over and gave me a hug during the show, and one of our friends screenshotted it and sent it to me. So my daughter, who was asleep at the time, saw it the next day and was like super jealous.
Oh.
And so we're watching the game on Saturday, and she's like, "Daddy, you're gonna do a podcast if the Hawks win, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Can I come in and give you a hug and you'll screenshot it just like Charlie?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, yeah." And then they lost, and like my son was crying because Iowa lost and the season was over, and my daughter was crying solely because she didn't get to come and give me a hug on the podcast. So when she found out last night, she was like, "You're doing one more March Madness podcast?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Can I come give you a hug during it?" I said,
Well,
"Sure."
she's always welcome on the program. And it definitely in better spirits now than a show would have been on Saturday night. I was looking forward to Instant Iowa.
I bet you were.
The amount of times that I've had to do a podcast right after, the day after, or Williams is probably the better example.
Yeah.
I didn't even go back and listen to Williams' podcast after the Iowa State game, but I was in his hotel room until 4 a.m. working, so I pretty much heard the podcast.
It was a
regardless.
good podcast, the post game that you guys did in the wee morning hours of Saturday.
Yeah, it's a bit of a post-mortem episode for Buckets, but it doesn't feel like it here in the Channel Seed Studios, in my opinion. We can start with Iowa because they're absolutely the bigger story. I don't know how you can ask for anything more other than the 7 minutes of, if they would have played a little bit better and Illinois played a little bit worse, you could have seen what happened, but it still felt like they absolutely hit their max. It wasn't like it wasn't like when K-State made an Elite Eight run and lost to FAU in the Elite Eight. That's one where you somehow make an Elite Eight and feel sick after it, even though I think that K-State team was a 9 seed. This is more like, ran into a better team.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends.
And went toe-to-toe with them, right, for the most part. And you knew there were deficiencies in Iowa's roster and in Iowa's game, and it was kind of shocking that they were able to overcome those through the first 3 rounds of the tournament. When it started to slip, those last 6-7 minutes against Illinois, the avalanche kind of came down. But at no point other than that, like, was Iowa wasn't outclassed in that game. They went toe-to-toe with Illinois. They showed up well. If they had gotten beat by 30, there would be a little more. Now, even then, the season is an astounding success. The future is bright. Just getting to the Sweet 16. I've said on this program, I've said everywhere, anywhere where people would listen for the last several years, one of the big problems with Iowa basketball is you couldn't adequately set expectations for the program until they reached the Sweet 16, because until that happened and they got that monkey off their back, there was that was the only thing that mattered. And so now that they did that and then got around further, got further than, you know, some of their rival schools, things like that. Like, a lot happened in the last 2 weeks that really kind of changed the face of this program, or at least, you know, in the near future. So, yeah, there is the part of me, and I don't know how long it will last. There is the part of me that's crushed by that loss to Illinois, and the what could have happened, and the so close to a Final Four. Like, Jake, I don't know about you. You probably feel differently than this. A, you're younger than me, and B, your team has been a hell of a lot closer more often. But, like, I don't expect Iowa to get to a Final Four in my lifetime. And so the fact that they were in the lead in the Elite Eight with 7 minutes left against a team that you didn't feel super outmatched against, like, that's maybe as close as I'm ever going to get.
Yeah, it's always a possibility, especially with a first-year coach. Like, I think all signs indicate that Iowa will be back in that spot at some point. Maybe not necessarily leading a game in the Elite Eight with 7 minutes left, but at this trajectory, it wouldn't be shocking at all if McCollum has a 2 or a 3 seed in the next 3 years. And then at that point, you are expected to be in that spot. But I get the perspective from, like, it was a Cinderella run at the end of the day. It wasn't a dominant run from start to finish, beginning of November until the end of the season. They did enough to put themselves in a position to have a chance.
Yes.
And Ben McCollum outcoached Todd Golden. He outcoached Fred Hoiberg and got them to that point. And that's where all the credit belongs. And Iowa out-toughed both of those teams. And that's, if I'm an Iowa fan, that's the encouragement for me going to the future, is that if the playing field can be even or close to even, then you trust a McCollum team in that spot. But now the problem is, or not the problem, but the next step would be building that roster from a year-to-year perspective and not being a 9 seed again. Because if you're a 9 seed again, you're right. You can't expect a run like that. But I think McCollum is capable of building a team that can be a perennial top 5 seed.
Yeah, I mean, we talked earlier in this season, maybe just before the tournament, kind of comparing McCollum's first year with TJ Otzelberger's first year at Iowa State. And the good thing is that's happened with Iowa State is Otzelberger has maintained and continued to, as he's gotten those players into his program that fit his system, as he's been able to kind of grow, put roots down with his culture within that program. We've seen that flourish, and we've seen them, put themselves in great positions. And so, yeah, if Ben McCollum and Iowa can kind of stay on that trajectory, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for.
Yeah, and where I think the comparisons between McCollum and Otzelberger end is how they got to where they were. Mm-hmm. Because McCollum rose through the ranks of being one of the best, if not the best, Division II basketball coaches of all time. And there's not a ceiling you can put on how impressive what he did at that level is. But the recruiting is still a massive unknown, because you are just dealing with a different type of guy. You are dealing with a different class of player. Otzelberger maybe didn't have the success. He didn't really have the success to warrant getting a Power 5 job. He got it because of his connections and because of what he'd accomplished as an assistant coach. But in his time as an assistant, he recruited Monte Morris. Fred Hoiberg gets the credit for that era. TJ's probably number 2.
Yeah.
And so, to me, when I was in that spot, I felt pretty confident that Otzelberger was going to have the future looking pretty bright. Now the ball's in McCollum's court to how does he navigate the portal? Because he did have some resources last year, not a ton, and he wasn't in a perfect spot because he did take over a little bit later. But they had money, and it didn't get spent wisely on Brendan Hausen. He'll have more time. He'll have more resources this year. And that's the next step for Iowa basketball. And to me, that's just a wait and see.
And hopefully he'll have a fan base he can sell, an arena full of people, a program that now has had at least 15 minutes in the national spotlight, which Iowa really hadn't outside of, like Luka Garza in a long time. And so, yeah, absolutely. And when Bennett Sturts gets drafted, that's going to be another thing. And I think while I don't love, and I don't think it's a great comparison between Ben McCollum and Indiana's football coach, whose name escapes me for right now.
Curt Cignetti.
Oh, of course, Curt Cignetti. I don't think it's a perfect compare. Now, I hope to God Ben McCollum leads Iowa to a national championship in his second year, like Curt Cignetti did. But I don't love that comparison, but I do think that comparison has been out there nationally only helps Iowa. The fact that McCollum is seen as this genius, that we had kind of gotten hints of this over the last couple of years. The coaches who rely on him or who think highly of him, his little like coaching circle, it's like, man, this guy, there's something special about him. But now like the cat's out of the bag, right? The secret's out. But I do think that's only a good thing for Iowa. I think the fact that he's kind of like a point guard whisperer is a great thing for Iowa. That's the one thing Fran McCaffrey could never do, was land that point guard. He was close on a lot of different players. He could never really get that true game-changing point guard that may have changed his tenure in Iowa City. It feels like McCollum can recruit that guy and bring that guy to Iowa City now. I thought it was great that Bennett Sturts was out there after both the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight games, like openly recruiting for a team that he's not going to be a part of next year, for a program that he didn't spend more than a year in, but he's out there, because he loves his coach. And I think all of those things put McCollum in a really good spot. And as you said, the resources, I mean, more money is going to be into this basketball program than there has been in 15 years. And that's really what you need. And so Iowa's kind of dance here on the national stage over the last couple of weeks is going to do wonders for the position they are in. Now it's up to Ben McCollum and this coaching staff to go out and take advantage of that.
So that all leads me into my Kaburski brothers' seed of an idea. I was driving, was it Monday, where it was 85 degrees outside?
Yeah.
And you could just tell how green it was outside. It's not too late to get in touch with the Kaburski brothers, but you're definitely right around the deadline of needing to get a call so that your grass can be looking as green as possible once May 1st rolls around.
Yeah, they're going to be taking care of my lawn again this year, which I love. It's going to look great. And then I've actually got the Kaburski brothers coming out tomorrow to give me a little quote on some landscaping stuff. We've got some like really old railroad ties as retaining walls, and I think that happened a lot in like the late 70s, early 80s when my house was built, and they're just disintegrating. They're just falling apart. Last year with like a whole one just like fell off, and it's like, we gotta do something about this. So yeah, I got the Kaburskis coming out, gonna see what they can do for me, and love those guys. What's your seed of an idea?
So my seed of an idea, if this is your first time listening to Buckets, we hope it's not your last. We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
It's an idea that, like planting a tree, like planting a seed in your yard, it won't come to fruition right away. And this idea, part of it, I think, is the nature of Iowa fans and how checked out a portion of them became from Fran McCaffrey. But also, I do think it's just college basketball in general. March Madness has such a spotlight on everything that there were a lot of people in this state that their first time watching the Iowa men's basketball team this year, I'm sure, was against Florida. And it's not a majority, but it's a large number. And it's a large number of people that I expect will go to Carver Hawkeye Arena next year and will watch games and will lock in. And that's why it's really important for Ben McCollum to strike while the iron's hot, find that point guard. Because does Iowa make the tournament this year without Bennett Sturts?
Probably not.
I don't think so. And they're not going to go find Bennett Sturts.
No.
I expect the role players around him to be a lot better this year than they were this past year.
Yeah.
I expect them to add a couple other reinforcements, but it is really important to shore up that point guard spot because, let's be honest, those people that just turned on the NCAA tournament, those are not the people that are listening tonight. So I'm not talking to you guys. That's far from it. But they don't really understand everything that goes into college basketball. And they don't understand the day by day. Like, they don't know why Iowa was a 9 seed this year.
Right.
They don't know that it was a good thing that Iowa was a 9 seed compared to where they were. So it's just really important. And there's a chance that, I know according to some reports, that there's a chance Alvaro Fulgaris could be hitting the transfer portal. And that will be a stunner if you only watched Florida, Nebraska, and Illinois, because he hit the biggest. He hit the biggest shot in my lifetime by an Iowa player. He had the incredible dunk against Nebraska. Like, he's this folk hero. There's a bunch of people that I went to high school with that I didn't know were basketball fans posting that stuff on their Instagram stories. Those people are going to be confused if Fulgaris hits the portal.
Yeah,
but
I won't leave.
I wouldn't be shocked, because the fit wasn't like, yes, he had those great moments and he'll be a folk hero forever. And I could even make the argument it might be better that he leaves so that he is remembered for those shots.
What he has right now, right?
And if he were to come back next year and maybe not have maybe a similar year to this year, it'll just be it'll be an eye opener to the diehards like you, the diehards that are listening, when you do add in all of those fans that are probably football fans first and maybe wrestling fans second and want to hop on what's hot.
Going to be a lot of casuals jumping into the conversation.
And that's a good thing.
It is a good thing. It absolutely is. But you're right. For hoop heads, you're going to have to have a little patience with some people, because you're exactly right. The Fulgaris thing, and now that you say that, it reminds me, gosh, it was maybe 2 months ago that my seed of an idea was Fulgaris is going to get hot and be the guy. And I guess it did end up blooming a little bit, because he did that in the tournament. But you're exactly right. I mean, this is a guy that 2 weeks ago was a huge disappointment. Maybe not huge, that may be too much, but an absolute disappointment on the season. Not worth the money Iowa spent on him. The handful of games where he was checked in and played well, like Ohio State, it was like, okay, he's great, and that was as good as Iowa was. But you didn't get that Fulgaris most nights. And so you're exactly right. For him to have those big moments, hit that shot against Florida, have the couple of dunks against Nebraska, and then the story around him, which is so great, right? He's from Spain, and his mom was there, and he hadn't seen her in so long, and he points up to his dead father, and his brother came to the Elite Eight game and the Sweet 16 game, and the story around him just became one of those stories. I mean, I've never been this excited to watch one shiny moment in my entire life, Jake. Never. Because it's going to feature going to feature a bunch of Hawkeye moments, and a couple of them are going to be Alvaro Fulgaris. And you're right. I don't know anything, but there are a lot of whispers that he's likely headed to the transfer portal. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not. And a lot of Iowa fans, especially the casual ones, are going to be clutching their pearls over that, because how could a guy who was this important in the most important games leave Iowa City and leave the program, when in reality, that's potentially a good thing, right? Like, Iowa's pretty deep at those positions and needs a true five. Like, that's got to be, if not number one, number two in the transfer portal, wish list, is go get a true number five who can get you 8, 9, 10 rebounds a game in the Big Ten. That's the kind of player you need. Fulgaris isn't going to be that kind of guy. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But you're exactly right. A lot more casuals. I expect tickets are going to be harder to get in Carver Hawkeye Arena next season. But that is what you want. It is what you need. It's where Iowa has put itself now as a program.
Yeah, and that's where it's important to sustain it. Like, I think back to the Paul Rhodes era.
You're right.
Season tickets 2012, after they beat Oklahoma State. Incredible. That team really underachieved. Then they really, really underachieved in 13, and then it was all downhill from there. I don't anticipate that happens, but it is important that if you do get a sold-out crowd for the Cyhawk game, which they will, it's important to not only, of course, try and win the game, but have a good showing. And same thing with the Purdue game this year. It's important for those opportunities where it is a sellout that the team shows up and keeps fans coming back, because this is the thing in the door, and it buys a lot of time to make an Elite Eight in year one. It buys a ton of time.
Yes.
But it doesn't buy eternal time either.
No, it also sets expectations at a pretty high bar, and you're exactly right. There are going to be people who follow this team next season, and if Iowa's a 5 seed and loses to a 4 in the second round of the tournament, people are going to be like, well, I mean, we can't even make a Sweet 16 now? This was like a definite step back, and maybe it will be, maybe it won't be, but you're right. Iowa gained a lot of fans in the last 2 weeks, and those fans now have a level of expectation that Iowa fans haven't had in 35 years.
Well, I think that's a good discussion on Iowa. We talked Fulgaris. Do you expect any other portal entries, or do you think it'll?
It's 2026, right? So
Yeah.
Potentially, I guess I'd be surprised if. Now, there's the double-edged sword of success in the tournament is, on one hand, Iowa has put itself on the map as a national program. On the other hand, guys like Tate Sage just put themselves on the map as legitimately good Division I Power 5 players who can make impacts in big games and big moments. And while I don't think he would leave, it's a guy who committed to Drake and came to Iowa with Ben McCollum. If somebody throws $5 million at a kid like that, who the hell knows?
Yeah.
And so I don't think so. I haven't heard anything. I haven't, there aren't whispers around, guys like him or Cooper Koch or, I think the guys who came from Drake, Manyao, and guys like Isaiah Howard, I think they'll all be back. That'll be kind of the core of the team. But I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, I was surprised Eddie Deal went into the portal for the Iowa women, right? I mean, how many Iowa State women have gone into the portal that
9.
surprised us, And
Wow.
so, it's 2026. I wouldn't be shocked if anybody goes, I guess. But there are a couple that would hurt really bad. Like Cooper Koch, I can't imagine him going into the portal. But is it out of the realm of possibility? No. And then when you go into the portal, like I said, you need a 5 and you need a couple of guards probably. And I think Iowa now has the resources and the position and the coach to go and get those things. So I'm excited for the portal season. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's less than a week away. Opens up next Tuesday after the national championship. I'm with you. I would be pretty surprised if any of that main core of Sage, Koch,
even like Trey Thompson, who
Combs.
redshirted this year and is a great athlete and has a big potential. It just feels like McCollum has this kind of much like TJ, right? Like guys want to play for him. And they're big money and blue blood schools are hard to turn down. But if you're going to turn them down, it's going to be for guys like the coaches we have at our universities.
Yeah, those are the weird ones, the guys that don't see the court. You hear good things,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's just, I sat the
Right.
bench, I'm going to go somewhere else. But
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't think there'll be a ton of attrition, and McCollum will be able to focus primarily on who he's going to bring in.
And the good thing is, for the first time in a long time, you've got a coach where even if a guy does leave that you didn't expect, that is going to hurt, you feel like he can go out and replace that guy and coach somebody up, right? And build a new roster around other guys. And so while it would suck if a guy like Tate Sage left, I don't think it's the end of the world.
So the Iowa State conversation now.
Yeah.
It probably starts with Kyle Green, the most recent
Yeah.
the most recent departure. And that is, it sounds weird because I'm bummed that he's leaving, but that's going to be our big money moment.
Yeah, it is.
Because I'm such a fan of Kyle Green.
Good for that
and
dude, right?
It's an awesome opportunity for him. Be a millionaire for life with the Iowa lottery. Woohoo. Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Trying to do my best Williams impression.
Hey, if you win $1 million, I heard legends and listeners say, hey, you could start being a big time donor every year to your favorite college basketball program.
Yeah.
$1 million every year for the rest of your life.
That'd get you like a third of a starting point guard. Which is not a slight to the Iowa lottery, it's a slight to the system of
That's right.
of college basketball. But Kyle Green, I couldn't be happier for him. It's a double-edged sword for Iowa State because you're happy for him. It is a great thing for the program.
Yeah.
When Altenberger can say, look, we've got 2 guys that were on our staff that are now head coaches, 4 in total, including Daniel Robinson, who left a couple years ago to go to Cleveland State. Now he's at North Texas. And then if you count Eric Henderson, his lead assistant at South Dakota State, who's now at Drake, Altenberger at age 48 has 4 head coaches already in his tree. And that is a great thing. And I don't think it caught him off guard because I'd been hearing Jacobson being tossed around in some coaching circles a month or 2 ago. So you had to know that if that job opened, Green was always going to be a candidate, and TJ wasn't caught off guard. I don't think he was expecting to replace 2 assistants in the same offseason with J.R. Blount, who really could have had a head coaching job each of the last 3 years, finally taking a job at San Diego. So it's tough for Iowa State in the short term to replace those 2 guys, but now it is it's a destination for assistant coaches to see if that success continues and I do my job, I'm gonna have a really good chance to go be a head coach somewhere.
That's exactly right. This is what you want as a program, and it's great when you can maintain a staff and you can hold on to guys like that. But sometimes those guys have to go off and be head coaches other places, and then maybe they make their way back. Maybe you never know how these things. When TJ didn't get hired after Fred Hoiberg left, it felt like maybe he'll never come back. And now look and. Hopefully Iowa State's not going to need a head coach anytime soon, but if they do, they've got a couple of guys you can call first. Yeah, you talk about the coaching tree also, like the McDermott coaching tree is just like spreading across the country. It's kind of crazy, the Greg McDermott. Because, now with Alan Huss at Creighton, obviously TJ, you got DeVries at Indiana, Henderson, Jacobson, those guys all fall under this. Kyle Green now is a head coach, right?
There's so many.
It's really kind of cool, but it sucks. It sucks to lose those coaches. Iowa football has been in this position a handful of times where, just this last offseason, you lose LeVar Woods, and it's like, man, that's really tough to swallow, but that is what you want. That is the whole point, right? Of these assistant coaches. You're not going to get many Phil Parkers who stay there for their entire career and are happy being the number 2 guy. Really, you're not going to get a lot of Darren DeVries at Creighton who stayed there as long as he did, right? And so, and Kyle Green, he was at UNI for 16 years?
16.
At Iowa State for 5. I'm sure he had other opportunities. I'm sure he could have gone and been a head coach. These are the kind of guys you want in your program, and then when they go off and become head coaches elsewhere and are successful, that's great. So yeah, awesome hire for UNI. I think that's huge. Our buddy Josh Betts is in the comments. If he can maintain that staff with Seth Tuttle, I think that's big. That was kind of the other big name in the hiring process is from what it sounds like, and it makes sense you would go with Kyle Green over Seth Tuttle. He's been at Iowa State. He's been a high major assistant coach, a little more experience. But UNI, puts itself in a good position, all things considered, moving forward. So that's big. And then again, you trust TJ Otzelberger, assuming he has the resources he needs. And by all accounts, it seems like he's going to. He can go out and hire or promote from within and then go hire those other jobs. But you trust a guy like TJ and his connections within the basketball world to go make a couple of really good hires.
Yeah, I think it'll be 2 outside hires from what it sounds like, and I wouldn't be shocked if we know by noon on Thursday because it does have to move quick. And Blount took the job a couple weeks ago, so I don't. Yeah,
that one's been in the mail.
I don't think they were exactly dragging their feet on that, but they'd known for a couple months that Blount was going to get that job, so they'd been handing off recruiting duties to other assistants, and they were prepared for that. I don't think anyone expected Jacobson when they woke up Monday morning to get that job, even though I know he was tossed around in some of these finalists for these coaching jobs. So I think that probably forced Iowa State to get into gear a little bit and be like, all right, we got 3 assistant coaches right now, and the portal opens on Tuesday. So right. I think they're going to move pretty quick.
That's a really good point. I hadn't even really thought about that, the recruiting aspect of it, the portal aspect of it. You kind of got to get your staff in place pretty quickly here.
Yeah. Well, Iowa State season ends, and it's weighing me down, absolutely. but it's also not at the same time. Like I leave with a weird sense of like to see Taman Lipsey not really crying in the locker room.
Yeah.
Half because he got all the tears out of the way before we got there, and he got some of them out of the way at the press conference. But there was just an immense sense of like, I was TJ's first recruit. It's been 4 years.
Yeah,
look at what
man.
we've accomplished.
Yes.
Look at where we're leading this. He said, Killian Torre, Jamari Bateman, they're going to be better than he is. Like, to me, it just felt like a massive what if that I will, like, I know how I'll tell my kids about it. It's, well, All-American, best player or best season in school history, almost snaps his ankle in half, have to run into a top 10 Ken Pom team as the 6th seed. And I know how I'll frame it. There's an easy way to frame it, but it will always just go down as a what if, and that's more of the bummer than I guess how it ended.
Because it does feel like if Jefferson is out there, that's a different game against Tennessee. And I don't know if they win that game or not. I think they probably do. I doubt they get through Michigan, but who the hell knows? I honestly, through 3/4 of that game against Tennessee, I kind of always expected Iowa State, because you thought Milan was going to hit a couple of, like, you felt like, man, they're not playing well. They're getting out rebounded by double. And they're still close. They're still in this game. All it's going to take is Milan hitting a couple of shots, or a couple of these moments, like that Torre steal and behind the back pass. Like it felt like they were so close for so much of that game, and then kind of like the Iowa-Illinois game, it fell apart in the last few minutes, and it started to go downhill for them. And it's disappointing for sure. It's too bad. You'd rather lose with a full roster, right? I mean, that's just, it just is what it is. This is like 2014, always going to be, man, if only. And I mean, really like 2000, where it's like, if you're not in Auburn Hills, and it's like Iowa State has all of these, and I guess everybody does to some extent. But like there's no what ifs for Iowa's run this year, right?
Yeah, Iowa football has the what if they didn't lose that freaking game to Iowa State in 2002. Or
right.
What if Stanzi never gets hurt?
What if Oregon has an incomplete pass this year and Iowa finds it? I mean, yes, you're exactly right. That's where Iowa State is right now. It's like snake bitten, and that's too bad, because this program is in a really good spot. The team is very good. All the good things we've said. And yet the inability to kind of get through that ceiling of the Sweet 16 is starting to like stack up now, and feel like, man, this is like cursed.
It does feel like somewhat of a curse, and I think I would be more worried about it in a weird way if it was Matt Campbell, who I feel like could sometimes play into those narratives and maybe convince himself. Like
buy into it.
There's no one in the world who said we've got to go up the rough side of the mountain more than Matt Campbell, and that's where like TJ Otzelberger doesn't believe in curses. He left that press conference. The last thing he said was, "We will break through." Like there was no, we're gonna get to the portal, see what happens. Maybe next year will be the year. There was no like woe is me. There was no like it was exactly. It was. We're right there, and we're going to get there. And the part that sucks the most and will always suck is seeing Joshua Jefferson in the state that he was in, and makes me feel vindicated for a lot of my Jefferson takes over the year of people saying, does he even care? Which sometimes guys just don't show emotion, and if there is one positive to how Jefferson went out, I think his legacy is cemented as a guy that went from, I'm not going to say he wasn't Niang level, but he wasn't in the best shape as a junior. And he came into his senior year in incredible shape, turned himself into one of the best players in college basketball, and leaves a legacy as one of the best single-season Cyclones of all time. And I think now 100% of the fan base sees that, whereas there might have been a very loud vocal minority that had their way of saying that he sucks and was selling the season and didn't care and all that stuff, and it sucked to see him have to go out that way. But I'll be a fan of his once he reaches the NBA.
So what's the portal look like for the Cyclones?
Well,
in and out.
So I'm already getting into this with some people and got into this last year at the same time where it was maybe a disappointing portal cycle on the surface. And I'm like, there's guys that aren't even in the portal right now that I think have a chance to be Cyclones next year. So it's hard to even say names.
Yeah.
But I don't think the stats, I don't think the analytics are going to blow people away. But the way that you have to approach the portal now is how does the coach put it together? Is it 80% retention, 20% brought in? Is it places like Kentucky that will probably have almost everybody leave, and then they're going to spend an entire boatload of money to bring in new talent, and that's going to get the headlines. It'll be, oh, look at all these people they brought in.
Yeah.
Whereas last year, it was like, seriously, just Buchanan and just Nelson and Mulder. But in my opinion, I think you have to view the portal as, oh my gosh, we brought in Taman Lipsey, Joshua Jefferson, Milan Momcilovic, Blake Buchanan. And that's like, I think next year you view it as, wow, because I expect all contributors that can be back to be back. I expect Torrey, Bateman, Buchanan, Plata, and Momcilovic all to be back.
So yeah, that's like getting one of the best young point guards in the Big 12 in the portal, right?
And the best shooter in America who very well
who I think will almost certainly be back. I don't think he's going to hear anything from the NBA scouts that makes him want to go.
I completely agree. And I think he's got a chance to be like, does he have a chance to go be a 25 point a game scorer? The jump that he took from freshman to sophomore and sophomore to junior and the potential jump he has, like if Milan were to hit the open market, which I don't anticipate he will, he is getting a hard number for Iowa State to be able to have and build a roster around. So to be able to get him at that hometown discount, which happens throughout college basketball, Bennett Sturts had the same thing last year.
Yes.
Like, the roster of those 5 guys will still be expensive, and that's not even including 2 pretty high freshmen that will be getting paid. So I think Iowa State will bring in probably a combo guard to maybe be that new Nate Heisey, some toughness, some ball handling, some shooting, some defense. And I think it'll be a couple big guys to make up the aggregate of Jefferson. You're not going to find Jefferson. If you do, that is an absolute scouting win. It's probably the best scouting job so far from TJ Altenberger was being able to land Jefferson at the price that they did coming out of St. Mary's and to see what he turned into. They're not going to be able to do that, but can you find one guy who can maybe do some of the same things offensively, and can you find another guy who can do some of the same things defensively and plug and play those guys? That's how I intend for the portal to go. But like you said, it's 2026. A lot can change.
You just never know. We had a question on Murph and Andy today.
I saw.
Who had the better men's basketball season, Iowa or Iowa State? And I do think it's an interesting discussion because, like, metrics-wise, there's no contest. Iowa State won the head-to-head game. They won more games in a tougher conference, or as I don't know if it's a tougher conference, but it's right there, right? They were ranked higher all season. All of the metrics, all of the analytics, KenPom, everything says they're a better team than Iowa. They are a better team than Iowa. That's a fact. But in this sport, and man, I've hated this for a long time because it's almost always gone against me as a Hawkeye fan. Everything comes down to what you do in this tournament. And while Iowa only got one round further than Iowa State, that's a big round.
Yeah.
Every round is a big round. It's an interesting question. I don't think it's quite as easy as most Iowa fans want it to be.
Or as Andy said.
Yeah, like by far.
Yeah. I don't think
or like it's not close. I do think it's close. I do think there's an argument to be made that Iowa State had a better season. Now, not when you take in expectations, right? Relative to expectations, it isn't close.
Yeah.
Iowa State was expected to be an Elite Eight or Final Four team, and they fell short of that. They were expected to be a top 2 or 3 team in the Big 12, and they fell short of that. Iowa was expected to do exactly what it did for most of the season. But what happened over the last 3 games is everything. And so I'm curious to hear how you feel about this.
Yeah, so relative to expectations, I do think, and this probably all changed with Vegas, Iowa State's expectations were not that high this year. They were picked 6th in the Big 12.
Yeah,
they
it
were
was
like
after that Purdue game that everything kind of changed.
Yeah, they were like a top 20, top 15-ish team coming preseason, but still, relative to expectations, Iowa outperformed Iowa State.
Yeah.
But I think from a head-to-head perspective, it just comes down to how much do you weigh everything. Because I know how the coaches and the players weigh it. Like they truly do weigh it from a how many games did you win? How far did you get? How many big wins did you have? And I still think from a season perspective, Iowa State had the better season. But if you are someone who goes like, I judge 80% tournament, 20% regular season, it's Iowa. The way I do it is it's a pretty close, like 50-50, 60-40. And in my eyes, Iowa State so far outperformed Iowa in the regular season that I don't think one round in the tournament makes the difference. If Iowa State were to get knocked off in the round of 64, or even the round of 32, I think that's a different story.
Yeah.
But the head-to-head, the amount of big wins, the amount of impressive wins, I do think outweighs Iowa, even though Iowa's no doubt the better story. I still think Iowa State had a better season.
Yeah, narrative-wise, there's no contest. Relative to expectations, there's no contest. Usually 22-67. I did say Iowa State wasn't a top 3 team in the Big 12. They were the 5th seed in the tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't. They could have been. They had the talent to be. They had the potential to be, but they weren't. And I think that's kind of where it all goes for me. If Iowa State wins the Big 12 regular season, it's a different conversation. I'm going with Iowa for 2 reasons. One, the Tiger Hawk on my forehead. Let's be honest. But I've been told for years, man, that this tournament's all that matters. Iowa didn't have a good season in 2021 when Luka Garza won National Player of the Year and they were ranked in the top 10 all season and they got a 2 seed because they got bounced in the second round. Right? Like that's what I've been told. That is how I've been made to understand this sport for a long time. The only thing that matters. Look at Duke right now. You keep getting beat. You keep getting beat in this tournament. You can't make a run. Look at the Big Ten as a whole. It doesn't matter that the Big Ten had 6 of the Sweet 16 and 4 of the Elite 8 and 2 of the Final Four. If they don't win, they still haven't won since 2000, right? Like they're still not the top conference. And I don't like to compare college sports to pro sports, even though we're getting closer and closer every freaking day. But if you do look at it like that, Jake, if the Cubs win the NL Central and are the 1 seed in the National League and get if they don't make the NLCS and the Brewers do, the Brewers had a better season, even if they squeaked into the playoffs and were the worst team to get into the playoffs. The NCAA tournament is the playoffs. That's really all that matters. It shouldn't be. I hate that it is. I've railed against it for a decade because I experienced those Iowa seasons, right? Like I watched Keegan Murray win a Big Ten championship. I watched Luka Garza be the best player in the country for 2 years in a row. I watched Jordan Bohannon murder dudes with long threes at the end of the game. And I was told over and over that none of that matters because they couldn't get it done in March. And so when you do get it done in March, and especially now, if Iowa had like fluked its way to an Elite Eight, I think that would change the conversation also. But you had to beat the defending national champion and 1 seed in Florida. You had to beat one of your biggest rivals, your biggest conference rival, and a 4 seed in their best season ever in Nebraska. And so I think if you lay it all out like that, I do think I give the edge to Iowa. Even though objectively I understand Iowa State, like even if they played today, if Iowa and Iowa State played 10 times, I don't think Iowa wins more than 3 of those games. But it doesn't matter. That's not how we weigh this sport. That's not how we determine these things. We determine these things by what happens in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it's a good case. The way I view the NCAA tournament is the worst way to decide a champion, and there's no question about it. But it's the most entertaining.
It's by far the most fun, right?
And unfortunately, it does get a lot of like very casual people watching it, and that's how things are remembered.
It's one of the things I love and hate about the NBA is like in a 7-game series, the better team's almost always going to win.
Yes, and that's
which means you're going to get the best team winning the championship, but it also means you're not going to get teams getting upset.
Yeah, exactly. If the top 16 or whatever, the top 32 teams make the NCAA tournament and they play a best of 7 series, Iowa's probably not beating Florida. And that's what makes this sport great, is it can happen. I also don't think it's the best way to 100% decide a season. Like, I know some people like to do it. It is just kind of finding that scale. And I think the interesting thing with McCaffrey is losing to Oregon in a vacuum wasn't that big of a deal. Like 2-7 upsets happen. Sometimes you get a bad draw. That team won the Pac-12. They were more athletic. It happens.
They didn't have a first-round game.
Yeah, they didn't play a first-round game.
And they were a bad matchup for Iowa. They had those guards that Iowa just couldn't defend.
Yeah, I think a lot of the McCaffrey stuff is like, well,
yeah,
okay, so it happened this year, it happened that year, it happened that year again.
In a vacuum, each season, there's nothing fireable.
Yeah, it was
in the aggregate.
Yeah,
it was too much.
I think the best way to decide tournament success is looking at it through a 5-year lens, through a 10-year lens, because right now you could say Bill Self is he's a fraud.
He's a pedestrian coach. Man.
They haven't made the second weekend of the NCAA tournament in 4 years.
That's crazy.
With those resources, but like, pull the lens out. What has Bill Self done over a decade? What's he done over 2 decades? What's he done over 25 years? There's no doubt that he's had success. Same thing with Izzo.
You're right.
We renamed a month after him, and it felt like he got upset in the first round 6 years in a row. So that's where I do think a lot of this comes down to, like, Otzelberger has probably overachieved in the tournament twice, underachieved once, and properly achieved once. And that's okay. And you'd hope one of these years they overachieve is when they have a team like this that you could see winning a national championship. And that's where I think it's just to kind of wait and see going forward on eventually if you continue to build a roster like this and have a team peaking in the right month like this team was, eventually you might have the luck of your All-American not spraining his ankle in the first 2 minutes of the tournament.
Yes. And if this is Ben McCollum's last Elite Eight as the Hawkeye head coach, it's going to look a hell of a lot different than if it's the first of many.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you go back in 5 years and where were we at with Jerome Tang?
Yeah,
a lot of people, me included,
I had a lot of that thrown in my face on X over the last few days.
I don't think it's comparable.
No, I don't
at
either.
all.
No. But we'll find out. I mean, who the hell knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
I saw somebody on Saturday, my buddy TJ, I saw him. Charlie and I went to a card shop in the mall because that's what you do when you have a 10-year-old. And I saw my buddy TJ. He was like, "Man, this is awesome, right? Like you're just, this is, it's the first of many." I was like, "Man, I hope so, but it may be the last time I ever see this, right?" Like, and so you got to kind of cherish it when you have it as well.
Yeah, you can never ever take it for granted. TJ made the Sweet 16 year 1. Year 2, they had a lot of weird things happen in the offseason, and a team that beat 3 top 10 teams and looked like they didn't even belong in the NCAA tournament as a 6 seed. And they didn't start that next year well either, and you wondered, well, was it a fluke?
Yeah, right.
And Otzelberger clearly has proven that it's not. So you always got to live in the moment. And Man, that wraps up our men's basketball discussion. The women's basketball, not much has changed on the Iowa State front. I don't.
Hey, Ariana Jackson holding the line like Emily Ryan.
Yeah, Ariana Jackson, Evangelina Polk, 2 players coming back. Macy Comito from Carlisle still coming in as a freshman. She'll be a really fun player to watch. Now you just await Audie Crooks and
they'll be all right.
See how they build it.
It feels bad right now, and who knows what'll happen. But I mean, they'll be all right. They'll be all right.
You'd think long term things will be okay. Next year could be rough. I did not expect to see Addie Deal enter the portal as a 5-star.
I was surprised by that.
That was really surprising.
And she kind of had her opportunities. Now apparently there were whispers all the way back, like halfway through the season that she wasn't getting the playing time she thought she deserved, or at least those in her camp thought she deserved. She had the opportunity when Taylor McCabe went down. She was put in the starting lineup, and she really just didn't live up to those expectations. And while Iowa ultimately had a disappointing season because of the way that the Iowa women is such an interesting one though, because way outperformed in the regular season, which put them in a position to then be disappointing in the NCAA tournament with that loss. But clearly they never got over that UCLA beatdown. That just is what it is. I was surprised by the move, but she hadn't earned the playing time, and I've seen a lot of people say, that's on Jan Jensen, and maybe so. And if she goes and she's an All-American somewhere else and, rips our heart out, like hindsight will be 2020, but I wouldn't have had Jan change anything about the way she coached this team in the regular season. Taylor Stremlow was a better player this year than Addie Deal was. She may not be a better player overall, and she certainly didn't have the expectations or the 5-star rating, but she was a better player than Addie Deal was. She, for what Iowa needed her to do, she was able to do it. And so, and this is an Iowa team that started 3 sophomores, so it's not like they were averse to playing young players. It just didn't work out, and that's going to happen sometimes. You hope that doesn't negatively affect things moving forward. But the core of this team is still there. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a lot more attrition. Again, who knows? It's 2026, but it doesn't feel like Ava Hayden or Chit Chat Wright or Taylor Stremlow or the kind of core of this team is going anywhere. And so at this point now, much like Ben McCullum, it's Jan Jensen's big time to go and prove yourself as an off-season coach.
Yeah, she wasn't good enough as a freshman, and honestly, if I'm looking at it from a big picture thing, it's better if she goes and leaves, because if you have someone who is demanding playing time and doesn't want to work for it, I'm not claiming she didn't work for it, but clearly she wasn't willing to stick around and put the work in for it. She wants to go somewhere where she can probably get an NIL deal that will have, you will make X amount of money and we will play you X amount of minutes, and that's that. I don't think Jan Jensen wants to be a part of that. The pressure now goes to, you'll have to help me on the pronunciation, but I know they've got the 5-star from Cali.
Velichko.
Velichko.
Yeah.
Velichko. Now,
I think
if she comes in and it's a similar thing where she's not good enough and it's bad luck and she's not earning the playing time, that's where you really worry long-term how you continue to get these 5-star recruits.
Yes.
But as long as Velichko comes in and performs like a 5-star should or close, and even if she doesn't, if she sticks around and works for it, then I think Iowa will be fine long-term. It's if she doesn't work out as well that you might get in trouble trying to haul in future 5-stars.
Yeah, and Zane points out, like, there's a lot of people, hey, Kylie Feuerbach shouldn't have been playing as many minutes. Kylie Feuerbach is the reason Iowa was as good as they were, as much as almost anybody. I mean, her defense, she won some of those games. Yeah, not by shooting, not by scoring, but she was a huge part of the success of this team. And so it'll be interesting. T. Hink asked for any news on Kuhn, who took what Iowa's Mr. Basketball took
Storm Lake
took an official visit to Iowa. Nothing yet. It'll be interesting to see kind of.
I'd be stunned if he wasn't.
I think so too. That's kind of feels like how it's going.
Anyway, If
go ahead.
Iowa State like really wanted him, I think that could make things interesting. But I don't think they're engaged. They've got 4 freshmen coming in next year that they're already. If they want to bring in 3 transfers, they're going to need someone to leave. So I don't think they're in the business of finding another freshman.
Yeah.
He seems like a good fit for Iowa. I know he's from Ben McCollum's hometown.
Yeah, right.
That
Crazy.
certainly can't hurt. And to me, this seems like a guy who, even if he did go to Creighton next year, probably would have ended up at Iowa anyway. So I'd be stunned if he wasn't a Hawkeye based off of what I've heard.
Well, I didn't mean to sidetrack our women's conversation, but yeah, I mean, Iowa, at this point, you just put trust in Jan Jensen that she's able to go into the offseason and rebuild this roster and, again, keep that core intact. And they were ahead of schedule this year. Hopefully they'll be just as good next year.
And sometimes recruiting rankings miss.
Yeah.
Like Omaha Ballou was not the 7th best player.
No.
Omaha was 7th in that class. I want to say Milan was 29th.
Yeah.
Milan's been a lot closer to first than he's been 29th,
Yes.
and Omaha has maybe been top 100, maybe. And that's I'm a fan of Omaha. I hope he's got a good senior year wherever he ends up, but sometimes recruiting is not a perfect formula.
That's right.
And maybe Addy Deal ends up just being a good player. Like Iowa State's had some players over the year that were high 4-stars and ended up being role players, and that's okay. Deal could also go on to
maybe
another
she's a
program
star.
and figure it out and get out of that slump and become a great player, and it's not even the worst thing in the world for Iowa if that happens.
No, absolutely not. All right, man.
I think
3
that's
games
it.
left.
It's crazy.
Season's almost over.
Thank God for the Masters.
Right.
If the Masters
Kinda
didn't
eases you
exist,
in,
I would get horrible post-basketball. I still get post-basketball depression,
I do
but
too.
it's not as bad.
I had that realization like prepping for Murph and Andy today, where it's like now it's been so long where you kind of know, okay, we got to talk about Iowa and Iowa State every week, and it's like you go into this show today, and it was like, oh, we've already covered the Iowa loss. We've basically put a bow on the basketball seasons. Like, what the hell are we going to talk about today? We'll find things.
We've got 3 games to go. Illinois, UConn, Michigan, Arizona. It's our buzzer beater brought to you by Buzzard Billy's. And, man, that would be a great spot to catch the game.
Yeah,
this
great
weekend.
place to post
Saturday
up on
night.
Saturday. Yeah.
I might have to do that.
Absolutely.
I've got some friends downtown that I haven't seen in a long time. I was
Yeah,
I
you
was
get
on
to
the
kind of take a
road.
little break here.
I was on the road 5 weeks, 5 different destinations. So I've got some buddies that I've got to see that live downtown. So maybe we'll have to go to Buzzard Billy's on Saturday night. Who do you got? Who do you got in Illinois, UConn?
I think I'm going to go with the Illini.
I think I am too.
Yeah.
They're more complete to me. They have more ways they can win games.
Yeah.
I do think that UConn might have the most unguardable player, though, in Terrace Reed. But Illinois might have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best
There
player
you
on
go.
the floor.
Yes.
So I like Illinois. Rebounding, size, shooting.
I agree.
Arizona, Michigan.
I don't think it's an all Big Ten natty. I think Arizona. That's the team I picked. They're on my bracket. They felt like the best team for much of the season. I'm going to stick with Arizona.
Yeah, I think it's Arizona too, and
I do think
I'm
this is probably closer to the national championship game than you know what I mean. Like, if I could reseed things, I would put Michigan and Arizona on opposite sides.
Yeah, Illinois at least has the shooting aspect of, well, if they make 13 threes, then anything can happen. And UConn has the Hurley aspect of, I don't understand how you can count Hurley out at this point.
My God.
But Arizona, to me, they match up well with Michigan from an aspect of there is pretty much nobody that can match Michigan from a size perspective. Arizona can. I still think Michigan is probably a little better down low.
Yeah.
But I think Arizona is quite a bit better at the guard spot between Bradley and Burries. I think those are easily the 2 best guards on the court in my eyes. And I've seen how Karchenkov guarded Milan Momcilovic in Tucson. That guy is a he will be an NBA 3-and-D guy. I think he can give Yaxel Lindenberg just enough problems. I like Arizona, and I'm a little afraid how much I like Arizona in this spot because it seems to be a lot of people agreeing with me.
Then you have Arizona going all the way?
Yeah. I think the winner of this game wins it, no matter.
Think so too.
Not no matter what. I won't say that, but
Right. Yeah,
winner of this game, I'm giving a 75-80% chance of cutting down the Nets.
Man, what a season.
What a season.
First
it's going to be
season of
better
buckets.
next year.
It is. Shout out to Mark Freund, our sixth man of the year, who jumped in several times. We appreciate him. He's going to continue to be a big. And then you know what I love? I just had this realization, Jake, of like one of my favorite things about Iowa everywhere is our flexibility. And like Instant Iowa is a football show, but when Iowa basketball does something notable and worthy of doing an instant show, that's what we do, right? We jump on. And now we have this college basketball like platform in buckets where I don't think we'll be on again until September or October of next year. But like, who the hell knows? If something big happens, we could always jump on and do instant reaction as buckets. So
absolutely right.
It's been a ton of fun. I love working with you. College basketball's there just is nothing like it. And so thank you to all the commenters, Josh Betts, who joined us a couple of different times. Like, man, we've just had a great crop here. Most Thursdays, Wednesdays here lately. We appreciate everybody.
Yeah, thanks to everyone who hung out in the comment section, listened after the show. We appreciate you, and we're going to be back next year, and we plan on starting right away once college basketball rolls around. My favorite sport in the world. I think AD would agree.
Yes.
It's up there. I love it. And this has been Buckets right here in the Channel Seed Studios. We will see you next year, or maybe sooner. We'll see.